encourage your soul, enlighten your mind, and empower your faith. This is the Light Network. Welcome to Preachers in Training, and this is a special live edition of Preachers in Training, although if you're listening later, it's not live.
It's true.
Whatever. We're coming to you from the exhibit hall floor at Polishing the Pulpit, and we're broadcasting live as we're recording this on YouTube and Facebook and the platform formerly known as Twitter. My name is Robert Hatfield, and this is the podcast on which we discuss all things preaching and ministry. And today, we're talking productivity with Chance Hicks of Four Preachers and a Podcast fame and from the North Charleston Church of Christ in North Charleston, South Carolina. Hey, Chance.
Hey, Robert. Glad to be with you.
I
do feel like we're like half speed, though, here without the other two.
I know. I agree. This is a little bit strange. We need Hiram and Brad to get on. If only Hiram would get on Mama Kemp's Facebook and
That's right. He could at least watch right now.
He could at least do something, but oh well. Productivity. Boy, what a topic.
Yeah, and like I said when you texted me, I'm not sure I'm the one that you wanted for this conversation, but that we could sit down and talk. I'm good with that.
So I am naturally bent toward trying to be as efficient as possible, but I feel like I have to be because, like, what we do is so important, and there's so many things that have to be done.
Right.
And you have to manage your time well, and then you have to triage things sometimes. And then some things, like the sermons have to be done, and here's a congregation of 150 people or whatever, and I'm the only person of that number who's going to be getting up and preaching this Sunday. Like,
right.
This is my responsibility.
Right.
At the same time, though, if somebody goes into the hospital or if there's a death in the congregation, I got to be there for that. And so the sermons have to stop for a minute, and I have to respond to what's going on right here.
Suddenly that takes precedent over
and everything's thrown out the window. And not complaining at all. In fact, we're sort of laughing about it. Not that it's a laughable situation, but that's just what you got to do. You just do what you got to do. But to me, then, it's those moments when things aren't urgent that makes the need for productivity so important.
Yes.
I don't know. Is that how you feel?
Yeah, I think so. Like learning how to manage that time when nothing else is happening, when you feel like, okay, I can breathe for a minute and I could slow down and just relax. No, you better like capitalize on those moments.
Yes.
And maybe make some headway so when something else does happen, something else does come up, you can adjust and be able to be in people's lives when you need to. I wrote down on my paper as I was thinking about,
you have paper.
You know, I do. I made a few notes. But that's
great.
one of the struggles with productivity, right? Trying to balance and find the balance between being productive in content, the things that you have to develop, but also being available in the lives of people and productive in the lives of people. So I struggle there, trying to balance. I know all this has to get done before Sunday.
Yes.
In the current work that I'm in, I teach Sunday morning class. I preach twice on Sunday, and that's really the sole day that all my teaching occurs.
Yes.
So like everything has to be ready for Sunday, but I also need to be able to balance throughout the week time for being in the lives of people. And
I like the way you put that, being productive in the lives of people. And I've said it before on the show. Like I'm interested not just in interactions, but in meaningful interactions. And I think by that I mean what you just called like productive interactions. So we're ministering to people. Sometimes
it's productivity in a different way, but it still is being productive in the work of ministry and the work of serving.
Well, that's what I'm getting at, because I guess sometimes, and this reveals probably a less than ideal attitude on my part, but like I'll have a lot of people that drop into the office or maybe a lot of unscheduled meetings, but they were important meetings. And so at the end of the day, like Emily may say, hey, how was your day? And I was like, well, I didn't get anything done today.
Right.
Well, I did get something done today. And I don't mean like that I'm irritated because those people showed up. What I mean by that is I didn't move the needle on the progress towards Sunday or
Everything
Wednesday.
that was on the list to be accomplished, nothing got
marked
marked
nothing off. Right.
Yes.
So it looks like I didn't do anything.
Correct.
But in fact, I was productive in people's lives. So I like the way you put that.
Which is probably in the grand scheme of things, maybe even more impactful than I got that, I got the bulk of this sermon written today or knew where I was going. That moment, those moments of interaction in the lives of those people may in the long run be even more effective than that what's going to turn into that 15 minutes worth of sermon that might go in one ear and out the other, but that you were there in that moment of need lasts for a long time.
They'll forgive maybe that the sermon wasn't as polished to your standards. Yeah. Okay. I like that. Challenges. I like. Let's keep going. Challenges to productivity.
We're
I like
starting
how
with all
this
the
is
struggles.
going.
Yes.
Yeah, the struggles.
So, and
all
I guess
the bad stuff.
On that same vein, not every day is as productive as every other day, and I don't know. That comes. It kind of comes and goes for me. Like one day I can come into the office, everything is the same environment-wise.
There's no.
And
I know.
One day things just really click and flow, and it's like get a lot of, and the next day it's just I feel like I'm on the struggle bus, although nothing seems to be different.
Yep. I'll tell Emily the sermons aren't working today.
That's
I
correct.
don't know. I'm doing the study, but I feel like I'm rereading every paragraph I read out of a commentary or the Bible or whatever.
I have those same conversations with Kelly. I come home and I'm like, I don't know. I'm doing everything I usually do, and it's just not. It's not flowing today.
What do you do on those days? Do you call it and then go walk around downtown Charleston for a while, or do you press through and because you know that tomorrow it'll all click, or what?
I press through because I'm like, well, there's a deadline. There's the deadline.
I can't not do
and
this.
I've got to go.
Yeah.
So I go back and I keep pressing through, and sometimes I feel like, well, I have sermon material prepared now, but I'm still not sure that I really like it as well as some of the others, but I tell Kelly, I'm like, it's on paper now.
It's there.
It's there.
I got something to say. It's in my heart. I don't know if it makes sense.
We'll see and then I'll start going back over it,
Yeah.
and reviewing it as we make our way towards Sunday,
Yeah.
and I get more comfortable with it. But sometimes in the moment when I'm working through trying to be productive and writing it, and I'm like, not feeling it yet. It's filling up the paper, but I understand. I'm not feeling.
I understand that.
That.
Okay, so what was the first thing? What was the first struggle?
Trying to balance productivity and content with productivity in the lives of people.
In relationship. Okay, and then sometimes your brain just doesn't work.
Yeah, you just know some days are going to be more productive than others.
Yeah.
So try to take advantage of the ones that are super productive,
Right.
and don't say, oh, it's only half a day and look how much I've already got done. I think I'll knock off the other half. No, if you're in that productive zone, you might better go ahead and take care of it.
Yes. Yeah. I've heard that procrastination is the attitude that believes that God owes me another chance to do tomorrow what I should have done today. Wow. Ouch.
Yeah.
Wow.
That'll get you.
That gets me. Yeah, it gets me. I agree. Like, if the juices are flowing, man, you just
better take advantage of them.
Milk it for all it's worth. Okay, is there a third struggle?
Let's see. Yeah, maybe so.
Okay.
The third thing, and I'm not sure how far this develops, but the struggle of trying to be productive and focusing on areas where I should trust God to be producing.
Okay.
And just trying to be patient in those areas instead of trying to force growth and development, and just step back and have patience and let God do his work in those areas of productivity.
So the danger of people who are like I am, I don't know if you're like this, like I want to be metric driven, not driven by metrics, but I want to be someone who's measuring what I'm doing.
Right.
And I want to be able to say, okay, I did have a productive day today, but it's not all hinging upon my productivity.
Right.
There's my part and there's God's part.
Correct.
Old preachers used to say it, but like, it doesn't all hinge on me. It's not about me being the most efficient or having all the tools or whatever. Some things are just in God's hands.
That's correct. Yep.
I guess the heart of really what we do is really about that. God gave the increase. I planted, Apollos watered, that kind of stuff.
And I mean, and that even is helpful on the days and the occasions where, like we were talking about earlier, you're struggling with the sermon that you have prepared. Well, even if we don't love it, but it's faithful to the text of Scripture, and we put it into the hearts of people, God's at work in it, and He can still accomplish what needs to be accomplished through it, even though we don't feel like we were super productive in what we put together.
We've all had those moments where it's like you're up there and you're thinking, boy, this isn't making any sense. And at the end of it, somebody comes up to you in tears because it touched them so deeply.
That's like that's the best one you've ever done.
Oh, yeah, and you're thinking, what happened? And then on the other side, there are often times when I think, oh, this is it, man, this is clicking, and people are just like, the response at the door is like, okay, try again tonight.
Thanks for being here, Robert.
Yeah, thanks for being here. But I often think, like, I get to have a front row seat to the power of the Word of God, and I like to teach the best way I can, and so sometimes that means I'm gonna be creative in my homiletical, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's just the Word, and let the Word work and get out of the way.
Yep. Yeah. God works effectively even when we're not, and God can be productive through what we feel like is a struggle of productivity. He can still accomplish His work.
This is that weird tension because He has entrusted His work and the proclamation of the gospel to humans through the Great Commission, while at the same time promising that He's going to be working through that word that is preached.
But on the other side, it doesn't mean I get to do like F- work.
Yeah, right.
Hoping that He's going to do A+ work through it. I still want to put in the best effort that I can, but I want to trust that He's doing His work, and I'm going to be patient.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so now then that brings us all the way back around, because now we can talk about suggestions, right? Okay, so what are some things that we can do to be as productive as we can be while also trusting that God will give the increase?
Okay, so I guess before we jump into suggestions of like what to do, just recognize, like, Matthew 25, you have the parable of talents. There's the 5-talent man, the 2-talent man, the 1-talent man.
Yeah.
I think there's also, you could bring that into the realm of productivity, and I think there's different levels of productivity. So, we can look at each other in ministry, and I often think about all that you do with the Light Network and preaching and teaching. I'm like, I don't know how Robert gets all of that accomplished.
I don't do that much. Don't be fooled.
But it can be the danger of comparing and thinking, well, look at what they're doing. I should be just as productive.
Oh, yeah.
But I think there are different levels of productivity. So if you're a 5-talent level of productivity and I'm a 2-talent level of productivity, it's going to look somewhat different, but we're still both being productive in the kingdom and productive in our work. And so just being content in I'm living up to the productivity level of what I can do. And
different people have different strengths, right? Or talents or passions. And so some people want to focus the ministries that they do with a specialization on this direction or another. I mean, congregational ministry is going to be congregational ministry, but some people are great at personal work. Some people are great at personal evangelism. And I mean, I'm not excusing a lack of personal work or personal evangelism on the part of anybody, but we play to our talents. We have to. I've heard Dan Winkler say, you got to know what you're good at. You do. Right. And most of the time I think we know what we're bad at.
Yep.
And then we let
that get us down.
Yes.
Yep.
Right.
But yeah, you got to focus on what you're good at and then really take advantage of that. So, just recognizing that there's different levels. And so what I might produce might not be what someone else does, but it's still productivity and it's still useful to the ministry and useful in the kingdom.
Right. To God's glory. Yeah, that's good.
So productivity. Here's a suggestion. Sleep is just as important as work.
Oh, why do you got to start there?
And rest is just as important as being active.
Okay.
And that's different. And that, again, is different for different people. Some people can function well on 4 hours.
Right.
And some people can function well on 8. And if you're going to be as productive as you can and you need 8 hours of sleep and you're only getting 4, you're compounding the struggle to be productive.
There again, it goes back to what you were talking about. Like, we compare ourselves, because I know guys that they're like that. They need 4 or 5 hours. They're good to go.
Yep, that's not me.
I am not that person. I don't function well, and I shouldn't. If we could say, and there might be people who are more into like physical health and things than I am, but if we were to
you
equate,
look like you are into physical health.
Clearly,
I mean,
right? I'm always
specimen.
doing all the things.
Correct.
As both of my chins will tell you. So if we were to equate the 4 hours of sleep guy with the 5 talent man, and I'm to put myself as an 8 or 10 hours of sleep guy, ideally, as a two talent man, I may think, man, that guy's doing better than I am. But reality is, listen to your body. I mean,
right.
You need to function.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. For your body to function at the best that you can, it needs to be well rested.
Mm-hmm. You can't give it if you don't have it.
That's correct.
You got to have a well from which to draw. The person who's on a lack of sleep might be snippy and
that is correct.
irritable all the time.
I've never been there. I don't know if you have.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No.
Do you think, this is a little aside, that we put too much of a premium on this notion of I'm a workaholic? Like we elevate the guy who is so committed to his work that he's like, well, I only get 4 hours. I know there are genuinely people who can function that way,
right.
And I'm glad, right? It's like my daughter is. She goes to sleep. She gets a little bit of rest. If she wakes up for whatever reason, it's like, I had a full night's sleep. This is it. I'm ready to go. Maybe that'll last for her through adulthood.
Maybe.
I love stuff like that. But over against that, you've got the person who drinks like 3 pots of coffee a day because they're trying to fill their lives up so much because they prize this, well, I've got to get things, I got to be known as that guy who gets things done. Yeah. My work is my life.
I think we can do that, and I think sometimes we put that on ourselves, or we want to be that. Like, we want to be that so productive. So it's like, okay, I've got to figure out how to make this work for.
And there's certainly enough to do.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Always more than enough to do. And I don't know about you, but for me, even when I'm sleeping 7, 8 hours, it's the last hour that it apparently is the recharge one, because if I wake up before that, it's like, it seems like I didn't get any.
I'm not
whatever
in
the
REM
refreshing
sleep.
is in the very last hour to 30 minutes.
It's important. The moral of the story is sleep as late as you can every day.
That's correct.
No. All right, I'm glad you said that, though. Get enough sleep. Sometimes easier said than done.
That is correct, especially when you start throwing the other things in that happen.
Right.
Family, children, phone calls. I mean, just
so
you
maybe
do what you can.
Over against that, be willing to do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, because I know guys, too, that are like, well, I have to take a nap every day. Well, maybe you do.
Maybe.
But what if something's happening during your nap time? What if somebody needs you at 1 a.m.?
Right.
I mean, to be available is important.
Yeah. Flexibility is key.
Flexibility and productivity are not often discussed in the same content.
But it has to be in the ministry world.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. So get enough sleep. Was that number 1 or number 2?
I guess it technically was number 1, because number 1, we talked about different levels of productivity.
Oh, okay.
So really number 1 was sleep and rest.
Know what you're good at, you said, and then get enough sleep and rest.
Yep.
And rest is important, too. I know some guys in this same vein, they're like, well, I don't take a day off. And maybe depending on your workload, maybe you can take Saturday and Sunday afternoon. In my world, Sunday is a work day. And I don't mean that like just because I have to be around people. But it's like, I'm sort of reviewing the Sunday night sermon on Sunday afternoons. Often it's easier for me to do that just at the office. So, after lunch, my wife and kids go back home. They do their Sunday afternoon rest thing. I'm over here at the office doing my thing. So, I mean, you need to have a day. And in that same vein, and I've heard lessons here at PTP. Take your vacation time. What I mean? So if you're given it, you should use it.
No, I agree. And like you said, it's in the flexibility realm. So some weeks that works, like whatever your set day that you usually take is, and some weeks it doesn't. And so if you can, if you know in advance, hey, I know I'm usually off on Fridays, and next Friday though, there's several things that are happening that are going to keep me busy. Okay, can I look ahead to that week and then rearrange so that I'm working on Friday, but I still have some time for me, some time, a day off, and
Yeah.
So I guess connected with that, the rest thing is find out what works for you, not only in the number of hours of sleep that you need, but some people are morning people, and so getting up early really works, and they can be super productive. Some people are late night owls, and they can stay up late and be really productive. I remember back in our preaching school days, we would be getting ready for tests and finals and stuff, and there were several guys in our class that would stay up all night long studying for those tests, and I'm like, I can't. My body doesn't function that way.
No.
So by midnight, the day before test, like I'm going to be in bed by midnight. Like whatever I have studied,
done by now, it's not going to.
Whatever I have studied and prepared is it. Because like staying up after midnight and all night long is not going to get me in a better place.
Right.
I'm just going to be completely useless and not remember what I did learn. So
I heard that. Wow.
Yeah.
Which are you, night owl or morning person?
Neither.
I'm an afternoon person.
I kind of fit in the middle of the day. I don't know.
Okay. 9 to 5.
Correct. I've been trying to push myself to get up earlier. Going back to school now on top of family and ministry responsibility.
Yeah.
I've learned if I can push myself to get up an hour earlier than I have been and invest that hour in schoolwork, that's helpful to family time. But sometimes it's getting up an hour earlier. Sometimes it is get the kids in bed, and I need another hour and a half.
Yeah.
So I can go either way. But I'm not much for getting up before 6 a.m.
Okay.
And I can sometimes make it to midnight.
I understand. I understand.
Not usually.
Yeah. I mean, if I hit the wall, man, it's done. That's it.
Yeah.
And sometimes that wall comes at 10:30 p.m. and sometimes it comes at midnight.
And for me, it's really awful when time change and it gets dark at 4:30, and I'm like, it's bedtime right now. It's 4:30.
We're going to sleep.
I'm ready to go to bed.
I'm a morning person only in the sense that my brain works really well in the mornings. I find I can really knock things out if I can muster myself up out the bed.
That's
but I mean, if I had something going on the day before that was, particularly taxing, or if I had to stay up late for whatever reason the night before, I mean, that's the challenge.
Yeah. I mean, you think about like here at PTP, our oldest son has crossed over into the preteen realm, which now means there are nighttime activities for preteens. And so last night's
Are they thinking about you guys as
no,
parents
they're not.
in those?
Last night was 9:30 to 11.
11.
But it was the arcade, so even though your time is done as 11, now you have to stand in line to turn in your tickets.
Oh.
So then it's like...
Because you're going to play till 11.
Correct. And now it's like 11:30, and we're just finishing up gathering all of our super nice prizes from the arcade, slime,
worth the wait.
Slime and bouncy balls. And
you got to have them.
that's correct.
All
so
right.
it's midnight going to bed, and that's like, but I really want to hear the 8:30 session in the morning.
Yes.
So now we got to get up early.
Yeah. And then you're sitting here with me in the late afternoon.
And then Robert's like, hey, can you podcast at 3:30? Sure.
I'm sorry in advance. In my defense, I didn't know about the preteen activities.
That's fine.
Okay.
I tried to turn you down anyway, and it didn't work.
It didn't work. Oh, well. In my defense, I don't have any defense. Okay. So know what you're good at and get enough rest and know when you work best.
Right.
Okay.
And then take advantage of it.
And take advantage of that. All right. Good.
Another suggestion is, and I don't know, you may do this. I make a list of what I need to accomplish. Sometimes it's a written list. Sometimes it's just a mental list of, hey, here's everything that's got to get done.
Yeah.
And that helps me to really be able to focus on what I should accomplish first, and to be able to find what needs to be marked off and which way to go about approaching it.
How do you populate that list? I mean, are you looking at the calendar? Or are you just rhythms of the week, or what?
Usually some of both.
Yeah.
So, sit down to start the week and I'm like, okay, there's the things that always have to be on the list. Bible class has got to be prepared, sermons. Now it's like, okay, here's the schoolwork that also needs to be accomplished this week. And then trying to look at the week and what other family activities, if the boys have practice games, if they're in sports season.
Yeah.
And then, okay, or do we already have plans with a member? Are we having somebody over for dinner one night? Or are we, what's our plans there? And then mapping out how things fit in with what you already know.
Yeah. So you use like
in
a big
anticipation
rocks,
of what might come.
big rocks first kind of
Correct.
approach.
Yep.
Yeah. And with younger children, even though you now have a preteen, there's always some wiggle room that's going to happen and mess up your schedule.
Correct. Because it's like, oh, you didn't remember that you had a doctor's appointment this week.
Oh,
and you get the text
okay.
that's like a reminder, you have this in the morning.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, confirm with yes.
Yes.
If you
Confirm.
reply no, you'll be charged $175 for canceling.
So I am saying yes, I will be there.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be there.
Now I got to figure out how to make that work.
I'll make it work with someone who won't charge me money for canceling. Yeah. Good. Yeah. I like the written list because I like checking something off.
Yep.
And depending on the magnitude of the task, sometimes I'll scratch it off. I'm glad that's done.
Yeah, so for me, that list sometimes is on a sticky note.
Yeah.
On like a computer program or like a literal, legit sticky note on my desk. And I'm just like scribbling down what it is and then marking it out. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be a super big rock or super significant to make the list if it needs to get done. And I'll write it down on there.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There's just something that feels good about writing it and then marking it out.
That's right.
And it's like accomplished.
What do you do? Do you ever like make the list and it's overwhelming? I mean, how do you? Every time.
Every time.
You're like, well, yes,
well, yes.
That's part of list making. No, how do you manage that? The borderline anxiety of that, just seeing everything that's there.
Not always well.
Okay. You sit in your corner and rock back and forth
it's
in
like,
the fetal
oh,
position.
Man, how are we going to do this?
This is going to be okay.
Yep. I don't know the best way to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it just has to, for me, it's just, I've got to go ahead and do something. Like if I can go ahead and get one of them accomplished and mark it off, and it's like, okay, got that. And now you get the snowball kind of effect. Now we're moving along.
Yeah. Are you a pen and paper guy? Are there any apps or anything you use for stuff like this? Do you have a paper calendar? What do you use for calendar? Your brain?
My brain.
The reminder text
sometimes,
messages from the doctor?
Yep. Mostly. I need to get more organized in that area of calendar.
It's just whatever works for people.
It's currently what's working for me is I can.
You got a refrigerator calendar or anything? Kelly keeping a calendar in her phone, just telling you what to do?
No, we just communicating back and forth.
Moment,
just living in the moment.
I love it.
And I check my school calendar more often.
Oh, yes.
Because of the deadlines for that.
Right.
And I'll just I've got a couple of spreadsheets that I use for keeping up with.
Good.
What I'm preaching, class material, that kind of stuff. So those keep me on track.
Spreadsheets. Now we're talking.
Yep. That's right in your vein. You love
spreadsheets.
Yep.
I do like spreadsheets. This isn't. Yeah. Anyway, don't get me off on spreadsheets.
No, but I have. There's. At the beginning of, I guess it was my first semester back to school, I had a sticky note stuck like right here on my computer, right next to the mouse
side
pad.
Of the trackpad. Yeah.
And it stayed there for like those 3 months with like everything listed on there that I needed to accomplish.
Oh.
And kind of scribbled out beside it the length of the paper, 3 to 5 pages, and the date it was due.
Okay.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah. Did your chest get tight every time you looked at that?
Every time. I was like, I still got to do that.
Yeah. That still isn't done.
It still isn't
Haven't even started on that
correct.
yet.
Even though the due date is like 2 months from now. It's at the end of the semester.
Yeah,
but I'm still
Right.
a bundle of stress and anxiety.
So what you're saying is you've shifted away from doing that kind of thing, right? Is that what you're saying?
No,
you don't put the Post-it notes with the 3-month out deadlines.
Just depends. Sometimes I do.
Okay.
I have this time. I didn't do it on the sticky note.
Okay.
I used the sticky note app on my computer.
Okay.
That now has some schoolwork listed.
So if you
that
don't
needs to
need
be
to see it,
accomplished.
you don't have to.
I hide it. Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
good.
It shows up when it.
Yeah.
But even like big projects like that, I think I try to look ahead, and if I know, they may not be due until the end of the semester, but I know maybe 3 weeks from now, Kelly and the boys are going to see her family, and I'm going to have a couple of days at home where it's just me, and I'm thinking I need to go ahead those days and take advantage of knocking out a couple of these big projects for school, or a couple of these bigger projects for the church that we're trying to accomplish, because I know I'll have time that I wouldn't usually have. That I really, you could take advantage of that time, I guess, for hobbies, or I'm going to get away and do something that I won't.
Yeah. Right.
And probably there should be a maybe a better balance in there. But for me, I'm like, okay, I can really take advantage of that and get a couple of papers written and projects knocked out. So
in those moments, are you, dusk to dawn kind of working, or are you taking some time to chill a little bit in between?
Some of both, depending on what it is. So I would still get up and do my normal workday routine for sermon prep and class prep, and then as soon as I get home, it's like everything gets strode out on the couch, coffee table, and chip away at it as long as I can.
Time to get after it.
Yep.
Okay, very good.
And if it's sports season, then I'll have a basketball game on or a football game on, and I'm trying to do that at the same time as accomplishing.
That works well, doesn't it?
Always. Multitasking, right? It's supposed to be at the top of the list of productivity.
I love it.
Except everything I've read about multitasking is you really can't do it, although you keep trying.
It's an elusive concept. Unless you're a woman. Now, women can think about a million things all at one time, right? But I am one-track minded. I love it. Okay, so we've said we need to know our strengths, know what we're good at. We need to make sure that we get plenty of rest. We need to know when we work the best, when that helps us out. Take advantage of the ebbs and flows of life. You might have some moments. I don't think you're saying work through your vacation. In fact, I know you're not, because you take vacations.
We do.
But, if
I might read some on there.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
If the family's away, or if there's something. I like the end of the year because things like get still, a little stiller, a little quieter, and most people are like doing their own family stuff, and it gives you some time to just sort of breathe a little bit. I look forward to that.
Yep.
That's why I'm glad it's August right now. It's like, okay, the Burr months are coming.
But the darkness returns.
Then you go to sleep at 4, so you can't help it. All right, never mind.
It's like I can't sit down at this time of year. It's like
that's not good for you.
I'm out.
Yeah, okay, never mind. I'm sorry I brought it up. What else you got? Anything else?
Yeah, I got a couple others maybe.
Okay.
Learn from others. So maybe this is an area that if you want to can expand your area of productivity, then grab a couple of books on productivity and work that into your reading regiment,
list.
Whatever it is. I have for the last several years worked pretty consistently books on marriage and family into my reading list just because of where I am in life. But if productivity is something that you really would like to improve or stretch yourself in, then I'd recommend adding something to your reading. And
to a great
you learn
extent.
from others, but even then to some extent, it's an individual thing. So you could pick up bits and pieces there, and you might try it, and it might not be productive for you.
That's true.
They might rave in their book that it's the greatest thing they've ever done, and it multiplied their productivity exponentially, and then you try it, and you're like, that's terrible.
Work for me. Yeah. And don't feel bad if that's the case. I mean, they're supposed to be a great proponent of what they're writing about.
Right.
Otherwise, they wouldn't be writing about it, I hope.
They're supposed to make it sound like it's great. They're selling a book.
I think that in some ways, productivity, not to overstate it, it does impact my family, marital life, because part of what I'm trying to do is to do as much as I can to create as much margin as I can, not so I can slack in my work, but so I can plug in with my family without feeling like I really ought to be at the office right now, or I really ought to be in the back room studying my Bible right now.
Yep. And I struggle with that some too. It's like, I really need you to hurry up and get in the bed because I need to go get something else done.
I know, yeah. Or I've had a summer with a lot of premarital counseling, and I love to do premarital counseling, in part because it helps me think about my own marriage a lot. It sort of sharpens me in that way. But and my wife is completely supportive of all that. But, you're meeting with these couples whenever they can. They're young couples. They sometimes don't have a lot of control of their work schedule. 5:36, 6:30, 7. They're an hour long each time. You're doing that for 6 weeks in a row. And after a while, I did that for 4 couples this summer. And my wife said, "Hey, I love that you're doing so much premarital counseling. I'll be glad when that's over." Because it's taking me away at least one evening a week. And in some cases, if you're doing 2 couples at the same time, well, you can't do both couples in one session. So you're doing them on Tuesday, and then we're at Bible class on Wednesday, and then I'm with the other couple on Thursday, and then Friday night we got plans with somebody else. Turns out
suddenly,
we're like never eating together.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's good for your marriage.
Right. Or for my small children. But that's why I'm like, productivity can help my marriage in that way. I'm not saying don't read the marriage books, but you could view it that way. I'm doing this, use that as a motivator. Part of the reason why I'm doing this is for my family.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. I want to be as productive as I can in those hours that I have so that it doesn't have to drift over into time that I should have for my family, or sometimes time that I need for myself for refreshment.
Yeah.
So
that also helps me to influence when I'm going to use the no word. Like I've got this opportunity, but I may have to say no to this. I'm not good at that.
I'm not either.
And if somebody calls and says, "Hey, can you help me with this or that?" I love to say yes. Maybe I don't always need to.
Yeah. And you and Brad and Hiram are 4 preachers in a podcast group.
Yes, we
have helped me there some. I had some opportunities that came up, and I was like, "Hey, what do you guys think about this?" And just because it was several hours away from,
you drive 3 hours, you preach 30 minutes, you drive 3 hours back
home. Yeah, it's like
6 hours drive time for a 45-minute session. Yeah.
And so, with your encouragement and help, I was able to say no. But
I'm sorry to whomever asked
without support
to do this.
It would have been yes, and then stretching myself probably more than I needed to in that moment, and more than my family needed me to at that time. But Right. So having some accountability partners in a realm of productivity I mean in ministry in general, but even in the realm of productivity,
I see.
Finding some other people who you consider to be productive and learning from them, getting their input into that portion of your life.
Well, and to me, just having conversations like this, I mean, where we're all like, "Hey, listen, at the end of the day, I'm kind of just barely getting it done, but I'm trying to do my best. Some weeks are ideal, most weeks are not. But just knowing, like, hey, every minister, I think, is struggling with this. Right. And in part, I view that as a sign that you're doing something right because, and I don't know that I got Bible to back that up. I just mean you're busy. You're doing good things. Didn't you know I'd be about my Father's business? And that implies that there is some busyness to what is going on. It's not busy work, but my schedule is jam-packed.
Yeah. And I don't know. I would guess that if you asked everybody that was on your list or pedestal of people that you thought were the most productive, if you probably had a chance to talk to them about it, they would probably enlighten you of their own struggle with productivity and how they don't feel as productive as they think they could be or should be. And I don't know if that's probably a burden that we put on our own shoulders.
Yeah.
No one is expecting you to be as productive as you are thinking yourself that you should be.
And the comparison thing comes into play a lot there too. I think they're really churning out a whole lot, either at what cost, or maybe that's just my perception and that's not reality.
Right. Yeah.
It's good stuff.
All right. I guess I have one final thought on productivity.
Okay.
And I don't guess you're going to find the word productivity in Scripture anywhere.
I haven't done a logo search.
I didn't either, but I'm just
okay.
guessing. But at the heart maybe of biblical productivity is character and not content. And I think when we think about productivity, we're thinking about the content that we're producing. We want to be most productive in producing material for class and sermons. And at the heart of it, when the Bible is centering on what you're trying to be productive in, it's about producing a character that's in line with Jesus. And so we can't let our drive to be productive in content take away from that biblical concept of being productive in character and letting our hearts develop.
So the sermon factory over against the person who is truly transformed by the word and then communicates that. Wow. Yeah, that puts this entire conversation into perspective, right? It makes the last 40 minutes really make sense.
Yeah.
We want to be the best we can be and do the best job we can do. But if we're doing all of that at the expense of spiritual formation and transformation, we're missing the whole point.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can. I think you can do it to the expense of yourself and development and growth.
And if you don't police yourself with that, nobody else will.
No.
Because most elderships, all they can do is look at your results. So they may be focused on that. Most people in the congregation, they're looking at what kind of sermons does he preach, or was he there for me in the hospital or the funeral home, or did he come by my house and do whatever. If you don't police yourself in that way, in truly spiritual productivity, like you say, nobody else is going to do it for you.
And you can even in that moment be getting the pats on the back and the accolades that makes you feel like, oh, I must be doing it right.
Yes.
And you're maybe not. You're doing it in a way that's detrimental to the development of your character.
Wow.
But from the outside, everybody says, everything's looking good. You're being productive, and so you feel the burden to keep that up.
Yeah.
When it's really being detrimental to developing character.
That's good. It's good stuff.
So it's a tough struggle.
Yeah. I'm glad you thought of that. You did what you always do on For Preachers too, where you took things in a biblical direction there. Imagine that.
It's almost like what we're trying to do when we have a show together.
Yeah, but sometimes we forget. Anyway.
Well, I had to do it today because we're missing half of this.
That's right. But check it out.
Hey,
look who we're not missing. It's Cooper. What's up, man?
Hey, bud.
You can
so just like that, interruptions.
That's right.
In the middle of,
and we were flexible, just like
correct.
you told us to be.
That's correct.
You can find Chance Hicks and the whole Hicks family in Charleston, South Carolina, at the North Charleston congregation. If you're ever vacationing or anything around the area, you don't have to vacation; just come by.
Yeah,
it's fun.
Yeah, we would welcome you.
It's a great place. North Charleston, South Carolina.
I'm there cleaning up Robert's mess, as I've learned.
That's what I cute. So Chance followed me at North Charleston, and he's there cleaning up my mess.
Or as I told him, I'm just smearing the mess around some more.
You can find us online at thelightnetwork.tv, and while you're doing that, don't forget to check out For Preachers and a Podcast. It comes out every Friday from that website and our podcast partners. This podcast comes out on Thursdays. Until next time, let's go preach the word.